Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff with Fluent American checking in with an activity that I really like to do with my students, where basically what we do is we take a look at a picture, we try to identify some key vocabulary in that picture, and then study the pronunciation for those words. This is an activity that I think is helpful for really identifying some concrete words in vocabulary. Again, a lot of my students, they do great, kind of talking about their day or things that they're interested in, like school subjects or the news. But then, for instance, if I go into like my kitchen and I grab something from there and I ask them what it is, they often have a hard time. So that concrete, specific vocabulary can be tricky, and that's exactly what this activity is here to address. So we're going to be taking a look at this picture story, just trying to identify some of the keywords that we notice in here. And of course, if you have questions as we go through this, be sure to let me know, so that way I can make sure to highlight anything that I miss. And again, this is also an activity that I would encourage you to kind of do on your own as well. Take a picture, try to match up the vocab, and then if you have trouble identifying something, you can then kind of target the vocabulary that you're weak in. Okay. Hey, Rob, thanks for joining me. If you have questions as I go through this, be sure to let me know. But yes, like I said, this is an airport dialogue. Or an airport series of pictures. And so let's just kind of identify some of the key vocab that we're seeing. Okay, so we can see that they're on the road, they're driving, they're going to the airport, the exit, right? And when you're driving or riding in a cab or whatever, or your Uber, and you need to go on an exit on the highway, you're going to be specifically looking for the off-ramp. Okay, so that pathway that they're taking here is called the off-ramp. Okay, so they're taking an off-ramp. Along the side of the off-ramp, you can see this little band of metal that's used to kind of keep your car from going off the road, right? This is called a guardrail. And again, we'll be pronouncing these words at the end. And sorry if you see my camera shaking a bit. I'm writing on my screen, so it's kind of moving things a little bit. As we do this, in addition to the cab, what are some things that we notice? So like, how would you describe this pattern right here? Just take a moment, think to yourself, how would you describe what this looks like? This is going to be checkered. Okay, so you can say there's like a checkered pattern. Or there's like a checkered strip or a black and white checkered strip on a cab. You have some also kind of just basic car parts. That front part of your car that, obviously you don't want to be in an accident, but if you have to lightly tap something, this is your bumper. See, B-U-M-P-E-R. Sorry for my spelling. Okay, so you have your bumper up front. In terms of your lights, you could just call them your lights, but that's not super specific. These are really your headlights that are at the front of the car. The tail lights are going to be at the back, which we'll actually see in the next picture. Other little things here too. So for instance, those things that wipe the glass that you look out of when you're driving, which is called your windshield. These things that clear the glass, like when it's raining, these are called your windshield wipers. Hey son, thanks for joining us. And again, of course, if you have questions about vocab as I go through this, be sure to let me know. I'm sorry about my handwriting, but again, windshield wipers. Okay, so kind of just to review everything that we've done so far. So again, you have headlights at the front of your car. You have the windshield wipers that wipe the rain off. You have the bumper. You have that checkered pattern. You have the guardrail. You have the off-ramp. And other things. And of course, if you guys are watching, let me know if there's things that you have questions about in this first picture or the other pictures. Other things too, so you have your tire. Specifically this part of your tire, kind of in the middle, these are your hubcaps, which is a little bit different from a rim. Okay, but you have your hubcaps there on your tires. But yeah, so those are the basic things. Yeah, Rod, how did your stream go? Let me know how it went. How about for our second one? So they have now arrived at the airport and they are parked. Ooh, where are they parked? What's that? How would you describe where they're parked? It's like, for instance, right here, that separation between the sidewalk and the street. This is your curb. Okay, so you could say they're parked at the curb. Okay. Inside they have the trunk in the back of the car. Trunk is where you keep the luggage, suitcases, and things like that. Okay, so you have your trunk. We mentioned earlier that the lights in the back of your car, these are called your tail lights. And just a quick note about tail, that word tail. So again, tail is a long vowel, has that long A sound where the back of your tongue is down and you're raising that front of your tongue a bit, okay? And your mouth is wide. And again, when you have a long vowel plus the letter L, it's going to break into two parts, right? So this is going to sound like tail, tail. It's not tail, it's tail. Tail lights, tail lights. This is also a compound noun. Compound nouns, again, are when two nouns join together to make a new noun. And so again, you have tail here, you have lights here. And because this is a compound noun, you are going to stress the first word. So it's not tail lights, it's tail lights. Make sure you stress that first word. So you have your tail lights there. How about this part? Usually, you know, where you have those letters and numbers that kind of identify your car. This is your license plate. Okay, so if you ever get a new car, you have to register it and get a new license plate. Some other things that we see here as well. This kind of long structure that's holding up things. This is you could just call this a column. I was actually working on this earlier with a student. He was curious about that. So that's part of the inspiration behind today's video as well. So you have a column there. Sometimes if you have a lot of baggage that you're taking with you when you're traveling, you have this luggage cart. Luggage cart or a baggage cart. Or just a cart, okay, that you can take with you. Usually you have to pay. Okay. And those are the major things I see in this second picture. Again, if you see some vocab that you're not sure about, feel free to put it in the chat box and I'll try to let you know what that word is. But we got 2 down, 4 more to go. And again, we'll review all these words at the end. Our third picture. Okay. So we have a question. Hey, Rana, good to see you. So we have a question here. Are sidewalks and curbs the same thing? No, well, they're connected to each other. So like, think of the curb as like, you know, you have your sidewalk, which is usually flat, and then you have your street, which is lower than your sidewalk, right? So your sidewalk is here, your street is here. The curb is that kind of that gap, it fills the gap between them. It's that ledge between the sidewalk and the street. Okay, that where the street and the sidewalk kind of meet. That's your curb. Okay. So they're not exactly the same thing because the sidewalk, you know, the sidewalk, all of this is your sidewalk. This whole thing is the sidewalk. The curb is only that part where the street and the sidewalk meet. Other questions, of course, be sure to let me know. But in our third picture, what do we see going on? And then, of course, I'm seeing Sun wants a whole video about airport vocab. Yeah, that can actually be, I can use that for our next vocab and expressions one. Give me some time on that, but I'll probably have that up sometime next week. That's a good idea. And Rod, I'm glad to hear that the stream went well. That's good. Always want to hear that. Some things are going on in the third picture. So some things are being exchanged. So right here, it might be a little bit hard to see. These are luggage tags. They just, you know, they have like your name, your address, basic information like that. So that way, God forbid your bags get lost, they have a way to kind of find you and get them back to you. How about this place? So you see on the left it says place luggage, and you see this arrow pointing down, and you see a suitcase. What is here? It's used to kind of measure the weight of your bags. And if you told yourself scale, that would obviously be correct. So you scale to measure your bags, make sure it's not over the limit, or they can charge you more. Next, what we can see, she has a ticket. A more common word nowadays, especially instead of ticket, would be like a boarding pass, to make sure you have your boarding pass for your flight. But the same thing there. In terms of a bag, you can see that she has a purse. You're just kind of describing the people that we see. And we see the clerk who works behind the desk. She's wearing a thing around her neck. That would be, she has a little scarf. You can see in her hair, she has a hair clip. Say clip or hair clip. Scarf, hair clip. You can see this right here. It looks like it would be like probably related to the company, right? So you could say like the airline. So those companies that fly planes, those are called airlines. So you could say like they have like the airline logo or pin or whatever it is, if it's sewn into the shirt or if it's like a pin that you tie on. Next, just a real quick thing, because my previous student asked about hairstyles. I'll be honest, my vocab for especially women's hairstyles is not the best, because women are very fortunate. They have tons and tons of hairstyles that they can do. But this style where, like, if you have hair that's covering your forehead, usually it's like straight and covers your forehead, those are called bangs. Okay, those are called bangs. And for our attendant or our clerk behind the desk, that there's also a name for that hairstyle. Maybe it's a bob. I don't remember. I don't want to tell you something that's wrong, so I'm not even going to try. But there is a name for that. I just don't know it. One last thing is that, where are they? It's like if you had to describe, like, for instance, this, like, whole little surface. You could call this, my student earlier, again, they would want to call it the desk, and that's fine. You could say, like, the front desk. You may be more likely to hear, like, the counter. It's like a desk or a counter. Okay, so you could say front desk, or for instance, at an airport, maybe, like, the check-in counter, I think would be your more common phrase. All right, if you guys have other questions about the third picture, be sure to let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to be moving on to the fourth one. Okay, so we can see that they have stairs. At least in the U.S., it's not super common that you board planes on stairs, unless it's like a super small plane or like a regional plane. That's a lot smaller. Typically, what you're going to do is you're going to board on what's called a jetway. So jetway is kind of like that like tunnel thing that you kind of walk through to get to the plane. That's usually called your jetway or your jet bridge. But that's not what she has. She has actual stairs that she needs to go up. In terms of what's going on with the plane, the very front of a plane is called the nose of the plane. Where the pilot stays, this is going to be called the cockpit. Typically one word, but I ran out of space. Because you have the cockpit, you have the nose, you have the stairs. See, she's going up. I feel like those are kind of the main things in that fourth picture that are standing out. And of course, if you see some other things you have questions about, be sure to let me know. Last two pictures here. So you can see she's actually on the plane. Where is she sitting? She is sitting in an aisle seat. Okay, so those aisle seats are those seats that naturally go along the aisle. Okay, typically on an airplane, those are a ladder. So we have a question from Ruddy. Thanks for joining us, man. So a ladder. When you hear ladder, a ladder is like typically like, let's say you need to reach like a really high place. you're not usually going to have like stairs that do it. A ladder is that thing that's like much more rigid and not slanted, and it kind of looks like this. Okay, so it's like a ladder is like that thing that you climb. Hang on, we can look together. Here are your ladders. Okay, it's like if you're doing some painting or you work like that. I also want to see if I can find the stair things. So maybe, what are they calling these? Jetway stairs. Okay. So it looks like these are Jetway stairs or just stairs. Okay, so you can say stairs or Jetway stairs. Okay. Good question about the ladder. Going back to the fifth picture, so again, you have your aisle seats. Usually, if you're boarding a plane, you want either an aisle seat or a window seat. I usually prefer window seats, but nothing wrong with an aisle seat. Other things that you can kind of see going on. How about this part of your chair? Any ideas what this is called? It's another compound noun. Okay. This is an armrest. So again, a place where you can rest your hand. You can't see them here, but normally there would be seat belts. Also on a plane, they would have they would have tray tables. It's like a tray table where you can put like your drinks or your food if you're flying. And that's a super common command, right? Like when they're taking off or when they're about to land, they'll tell you over the PA system. They'll be like, please like put your tray tables and seats back or whatever. Okay. Hey, Mr. Polyglot, thanks for joining us. How many live streams have you gone to today? It sounds like you've done a lot. Busy day. So we have the armrest, we have the aisle. She has the aisle seats. How about back here? What is this room called? If you think it's the bathroom, you're not wrong, but on a plane they don't usually call it the bathroom. They usually have another name for it. Starts with an L. They'll call it usually the lavatory. Okay. Yeah, so they have the lavatory, which is pretty much the bathroom. Yeah, and I think that kind of hits most of the vocab that I'm seeing in the fifth picture. So again, you have the aisle seat, you have the armrest, you have the lavatory or the bathroom, and you also have just the aisle. Okay. Other things that we mentioned, of course, are also tray tables, seat belts, and things like that, which you can't see in this picture. All right, and then in our last one, so we can actually see our plane. What are some of the parts of the plane that we can see? Well, we can see there's the engine. You can see two engines, so twin jet engines. We can see our cockpit. We can see the nose of the plane up front, just like we saw in picture 4 above. In the back of the plane, you can see the tail of the plane. You can also see the wings of the plane on either side. You can see these doors that have like rectangles around them. It's like all of these would be your emergency exits. Hopefully you never have to leave a plane through most of those. I would hope. If anyone has a story where they had to leave a plane through an emergency exit, I would love to hear that. And then I know it's a little bit hard to see, but right here, that little building right there in the corner, let's imagine that they're still over the airport, which it looks like. But that's probably one of the more important buildings at the airport. This is your control tower. All right. So again, in that last picture, we had the wings, tail, emergency exit, engine, and the control tower. And we also see like some clouds in the sky and things like that. Okay. Also, for my people who really like onomatopoeia, like sound words, like words that capture the sounds that things make. Hey, thank you for joining us. A sound word that you'll see a lot with like planes is like whoosh, or like swoosh. If you're looking for sound words of that planes like to use. All right, so I'm going to go back to the top picture and just kind of recap the pronunciation for these words. And of course, as I go through this, if there are words that I missed that you have questions about, be sure to let me know. Let's take a look at picture 1. Okay, so we see the sign for the exit, which means that they need to take the off ramp. So again, off ramp. Really make sure that you stress off. Okay, so you have the off ramp. Also watch out for ramp. You have that ah sound, ah like in cats. And again, when you link that ah sound to like an M or an N or an NG, like your nasals, we talked about this in previous videos. Make sure it breaks into 2 parts, like ram, ramp, off ramp. Okay. Next one, bumper. Watch out for that schwa sound. So it's not bomb, it's more bum. You can keep your mouth more closed. Try not to open it too wide. And again, that mid back of your tongue is rising. Also make sure that the R at the end is strong. Bumper. We said in terms of the tire part here, we said that this is your hubcap, part of your wheel, the hubcap. To help you when you're driving and like it's raining, you have your windshield wipers. Notice lots of you have a compound noun there as well, so that means we're going to stress wind. So it's not windshield, it's windshield. And windshield wipers, you're stressing wind. Okay. Another compound noun too, headlights. Those are the lights at the front of your car. And guardrail, another compound noun. So make sure you're stressing guard. The guardrail keeps you on the road so that you don't fall off and things like that. Those are our key vocab words from the first picture. Again, my apologies for my handwriting. I have a doctor's handwriting, but I don't have the doctor's salary. I don't know what to tell you. Next, in the second picture, we have a curb. So again, a curb is in between your sidewalk. So here's your sidewalk again. It's for Rana. And then you have your street down here. Again, your curb is in between. Okay? Rod says he's a work in progress in English. I'm also a work in progress in English. There's always things to learn about whatever language you're learning or your first language. Next up, you have a column. Notice that O in column has an ah sound. Notice also that the N in column is not pronounced. It's just column. Also that schwa sound. So it's not column, it's column. Luggage cart, another compound noun. So make sure you're stressing luggage. Okay. Tail lights. So here you have tail lights. Ale. Just watch out for that part again. Tail, because of that long vowel. Tail lights. Tail is your stress. Okay. Tail lights. And then trunk. Again, another schwa sound. So again, it's more so it's not tra. It's more tr. Also note again when you have the letters tr together, it makes like a ch type sound, like a chr, like tr. Make sure that's not tr. You don't want to roll that R. Next, in the third picture, we mentioned her hairstyle. Her hairstyle has bangs, ang. Just like we mentioned before, you have that ass sound plus the nasal again. So again, ang, bang, bangs. Also note too that because that S sound is after that NG, it's going to be a little bit voiced, so a slight Z sound. Make sure your throat's vibrating. Zzz, bangs. Okay. That tool that they're using to measure is your scale. Again, ale, because you have that long vowel plus the L. So scale. You have the airline logo, so like the company logo, the airline logo on her shirt. Okay. When you say logo, make sure that it's ending on that strong O sound. So it's not logo, it's logo. Make sure it stays O sound strong at the end. She has a hair clip. It's not cleep, it's clip. So watch out for that short I sound. So it's not E, it's more clip. She also has a scarf. That R sound can be a little bit tricky. So just again, make sure you get that ah sound wide enough before the R. Scarf. The woman also has a purse, purse, and then luggage tags, and luggage like we mentioned before, schwa sound on that U, luggage. Also, she works at the desk. Make sure you're not saying dask. It's desk, desk, raising the back, the middle, and the front of your tongue up and closing your mouth a little bit, straightening your lips. Desk, desk. You could also call it the counter, like the check-in counter. Check-in counter. Notice that the T is not pronounced because it comes after the letter N. Counter. Next one, in our fourth picture, what do we mention? So we do not have a ladder, but we do have some jetway stairs to go up. Notice that jetway, because you have that T followed by a consonant, you're actually going to use a held T sound very often. So instead of saying jetway, can you hear that T? Jetway. You can also use a held T, so like jetway. The nose of the airplane. Oh, watch out for that O sound. Again, start with your mouth wide. Back of your tongue high, front of your tongue down. And then close your mouth, and you can lower your tongue a bit. No. Nose. Notice that small round lips at the end. Nose. Okay? Also, the very front of the plane where the pilot is, that's called the cockpit. Okay? I'm seeing people talking about how long they've studied English for. Languages are journeys, it's definitely take your time with them. However long you guys have studied, I think it's great to study languages. Also, if you're studying English for less time, I would definitely take advantage of that to really kind of focus on pronunciation, because the longer that you study English for, the more kind of structured you get in the pronunciation style that you learn. So if you find that you've studied English maybe for just a year or 2 years, or it definitely is a good time to kind of begin thinking about pronunciation before it gets to be like 10 years or 20 years of learning and speaking a certain way. It definitely becomes a little bit harder to adjust. Not impossible, but harder. Yeah, I think those are the main things we highlighted for picture 4. Moving on to picture 5, what are some of the things we mentioned? Aisle. Again, that I sound is another long vowel, so it breaks into 2 parts. Aisle. And when you say those sounds too, just something you want to consider. Keep the front of your tongue down and close your mouth more. It's more Again, you can even press the corners of your lips together. Aisle. The bathrooms on planes typically called lavatories. Okay. And also on the seat, you can see that we have the armrest. Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Rod. I really appreciate that. So again, you have the aisle seat, lavatory, armrest, aisle. Also, when you're saying lavatory, this is especially true for my Chinese speakers, but other groups as well, make sure you're holding that E sound. For instance, also Russian speakers. Make sure you're holding that E at the end. So it's not lavatory, it's lavatory, holding that. All right, and our last picture here, picture 6. So we can see the engine. Make sure you're not saying engine. It's not G, it's J, short I sound. Again, if that short I sound is tricky for you, the very back of your tongue is down, the mid back of your tongue is up, and the front of your tongue is down, and the sides of your tongue are touching your top teeth. It's almost like you're biting the sides of your tongue, but don't draw blood. Okay, don't bite hard. But again, it should be more like eh. It's like engine. Also, watch out for that final N sound. Again, especially for my Chinese speakers. So it's not engine, it's engine. Get the back of your tongue down for that last N. Okay. Other things that we see the wings of the airplane. Wings, again with the short I sound. Wings. We see the tail. Again, we mentioned that tail, again with the A sound. Tail. We see the emergency exit. Emergency exits, I should say, because there's multiple ones. Emergency exit. Notice that the X on exit makes like a gz sound because it's stressed. The it is stressed, so that's why you're going to get that gz. So make sure your throat's vibrating there. And then control tower. Stressing control. Control tower. Oh, and again, the onomatopoeia, like the sound words. So again, the sounds the planes make, like whoosh, or swoosh. But I think whoosh is more common. Okay, those are all the words that I had. I saw Rana has an off-topic question. I love off-topic questions. So we have better, butter, bitter. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other pairs that also use that. So better, butter, bitter. So like letter. I'll have to think of an L sound. Letter. Letter is not a word. Maybe like blubber. Letter, blubber. Litter. Settle. Subtle. Sit. Settle's not really a word. I'm trying to think of some, maybe one or two more pairs of things like that. But yeah, we can, let's kind of like, let's kind of just talk about those really quick. So again, we have better, butter, bitter. And I'll make a longer video on this. Hopefully I remember. I'm making some notes. But again, it's like better. You know, when you're making that better sound, what you're doing is you want to be careful, you know, because B is a plosive sound, so it makes you want to really open your mouth. Okay. But don't let that happen. Keep your lips more pressed together. Okay. Also raise again the back, the middle, and the front of your tongue. So it's like be, better, better. Notice again, my mouth's not super wide. Better, better. So it's not better. It's better, better. Okay. Versus that second word, butter, butter, which your schwa sound. Okay. So again, you're raising the mid back of your tongue, lowering the front of your tongue, and relaxing your mouth. Super relaxed. Butter, butter. So again, better, butter, better, butter. And then the last one there is bitter, bitter, which is that short I sound that we mentioned earlier. So again, the back of your tongue is down, mid back raised, front of your tongue down, mouth a little bit wide. Be, so it's not B, it's more be, bitter. So again, better, butter, bitter, better, butter, bitter. Some of those other pairs that I had, it's like, for instance, letter, letter. And then the next one was blubber, blubber. And then the last one, litter, litter. So again, letter, blubber, litter. And we have a question from Sunshine about hustle. The T is not pronounced in hustle. Okay, so it's not hustle. That'd be kind of hard to say, honestly. But yeah, it's going to be more hustle. Just take off the T. Pretend the T's not there. And that last group I made for the and I sounds. So again, settle, settle versus subtle, subtle, and sit, sit. I also misspelled subtle. My apologies. This should be a TLE. Cool. I'll stay on for another minute or so in case some other people have some other questions for me. But yeah, that kind of highlights our main vocab for airports. I was asked to have a video about some more flight vocabulary and expressions and things like that. So I'll try to get that ready for you at some point this week. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the content, be sure to let me know. And of course, I always appreciate you spending some time with me, especially on your weekend. Yeah. Again, see just if anyone else has any questions, but again, I always appreciate you guys and your time. Trying to think also what I can do with this as well is I'm going to take a screenshot of this picture. Give me 1 second in case you really want to see my horrible handwriting. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that picture and I will put in the community tab, I'll post a picture of this so that way in case you guys want to take a look at the picture again to see the vocab, you will have that for all internet eternity. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your time. Always appreciate it. If I did not answer a question that you had today, I am sorry. Feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to get some content for you a little bit later. But I'm going to go get ready for my next class. You guys have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon. Thank you, as always, for spending your time with me. I always appreciate it. Take care. Bye.